What's up, guys? How are ya? Welcome into a November 1st episode of the Daily Juice Podcast. Happy Friday. My name is Matt Perrault. You guys can follow me across all of my socials at Sports Talk Matt. And I am taping this a little early because I have to get on a plane first thing in the morning. I am headed to the Breeders' Cup. I have never gone to the Breeders' Cup before, but I'm doing my other show from Del Mar. So getting on a plane, going to San Diego. If some of you guys like to bet horses, I'll put bet slips, bets I'm going to make at the window today on the Discord channel, bettingpros.com/chat. I don't know how to make bets official for the juice when it comes to horse racing because it's pari-mutuel. So the numbers are going to shift and change and move all over the place. So like the number right now won't be the number in the morning, won't be the number at post time. So it's all over the place. If you're looking for horses to pay attention to, American Bikini is a horse we keep on getting told that the Japanese horses, and that's a horse that's going to do really well in the juvenile filly race that will happen today. There's a couple of horses in the Classic. I've written all this stuff down. So let's see. What else? From a Classic horse perspective. Iroko C is one. Odomanchenko is another. Matisse is another. If you're looking at that. So I'll give you in the Classic, Arthur's Ride is a horse on Saturday, but it's Friday and Saturday. Okay, so I've been interviewing horse people all week on my other show. I'm headed to the Breeders' Cup. I'm headed to Del Mar, so we're taping this early. It was not a good day yesterday. We got wiped out, unfortunately, of the 3 units we won on Thursday. We gave it all back on Wednesday. We gave it all back on Thursday. Just like we were a couple of plays short of an awesome night. Texans, they covered the 8. But the game goes under because they couldn't score a touchdown in the last minute. If they score a touchdown there in the last minute, the game, we fall 38 and we cash that bet. And really the whole day is different if that happens. Tulane, first quarter was dead slow, 3-0. And then they scored 34 points. Like we just wound up a field goal shy of getting there. We missed 2 field goals for the Texans, by the way. The Texans hit both those field goals. We go over. So it's just one of those nights where just bad things happened. That's betting, man. That just happened. Conklin hit for us. Mixon, the worst bet of the night was Mixon. He had over 80, I think he had 85 yards in the first half. Huge. Hall had 11 yards receiving. He went under. They again did not use him, but they won the game. So that's betting. I mean, the process. This is an awesome book. If you guys haven't gone and read this book, it's a great book. It's called Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke. It changed my philosophy on how to gamble entirely, okay? A lot of you are like, why don't you get upset? Or why do you keep on firing? And why do you do this podcast? All the different nuances. I had some guy come in here and tell me that why didn't I tell him to lay minus 175 on the Tulane team total when I told you that 34, you know what, we're going to need a field goal because 35 is a weird number. So we need a field goal to get there. And we almost got there. And they're on the 10-yard line with 30 seconds to go. They took a knee like they should have. But if they had busted a play and ran in for a touchdown, we would have covered. So like we were right there. Don't judge your bets on the outcome, okay? Judge your process. Was your process right? My process was right. The Tulane team total, that process was right. Just wound up a little bit short. That same game teaser, process was right. If I taken the under, teased it up and gone under, that would have been a much easier bet. But 2 missed field goals, you can't handicap that. Fairbairn's been tremendous. Great kicker for the Texans. So if he kicks both those field goals, we get 6 points, we hit. So the process was okay. Night was bad. Process was good. I'm okay. New month, new day. Let's start clean. Let's get rid of October. Let's have a winning month of November. We won in September. We lost in October. Let's see what happens in November. Let's keep it rolling, keep it firing. This podcast is being brought to you by Draftkings. The play $5 when you download the new DraftKings Pick 6 app. Use the code JUICE, and when you play $5, you get $50 instantly in Pick 6 credits. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. In Connecticut, 18 plus in most jurisdictions. Most eligible jurisdictions, but other age and eligibility restrictions may vary. Valid only in jurisdictions where DraftKings Pick 6 operates. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including but not limited to New York and California. Void where prohibited. One new Pick 6 customer, a $5 play, you get a $50 issued as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 30 days. For full terms, go to pick6.draftkings.com/promo. promos. All right, let's start with Boise State tonight. At home. Boise at home has been a wrecking ball. Like, they just kill people at home. They're laying 23.5 points. I know it's a big number. I don't normally lay this type of number. Normally, I lay money line, and I don't want the agony. I haven't laid points in a long period of time, okay? If you guys are watching the podcast, I've been betting a lot of money lines. I haven't been wanting to play around here in betting numbers, but we lost yesterday, and I want to limit the juice exposure a little bit. I'm not going to lay a money line price here. However, Boise at home is 2-1. At home against Portland State, they were laying 43 points. They won by 42. Like, okay, they didn't cover that. In the next two home games against Washington State, they laid 6.5 and they won by 21. Against Utah State, they laid 28. They won by 32. These are stat padding games for Genty, their running back. It's a way of putting up big numbers. They want him to win the Heisman. If nothing less, they want him to be a Heisman finalist. They need big numbers. They need big scoring numbers, long touchdown runs. San Diego State has covered 4 straight games. I get it. They went to Washington, or they were home against Washington State. They caught 17. They lost by 3. They went to Wyoming. They were a plus 1.5 favorite. They won by 3. Against Hawaii at home, they were laying 1.5. They won by 3. And against Central Michigan, they were catching 2, and they lost by 1. On the road, the numbers have been pretty small. Against Cal on the road, they were catching 18.5, and they lost by 21 points. They didn't cover. Central was catching 2, they lost by 1, and Wyoming was catching 1.5, and they won by 3. Different animal here when it comes to who they're playing with Boise State. Like, you're going to have a real tough time stopping Boise State tonight if you're San Diego State. In particular, they gave up 4.3 yards per rush. That's outside the top 75 defensively in college football. That's brutal against the number 1 rushing offense in the college football world with Boise at 6.9 rushing yards per attempt. They run for 263 yards per game. That's 4th best in the country. 175 yards given up per game for San Diego State. That's awful. That's nearly outside the top 100 of the country. This is bad, okay? I don't think San Diego State's going to hang around here. I think Boise State's defense, I watched it in person. It's going to shut down San Diego State. I don't think San Diego State scores very much. Much like we talked about last night with Charlotte. Charlotte didn't score. That's why I didn't want to lay the over. The under hit in that game. I wasn't bad in that game. I hit the under in that game. I laid 14.5 in that game. Unfortunately, the team total was my favorite bet. That didn't hit. The other two did. But in this is like the same thing. I like the under in this game. It's 57 points. I like the under. Boise State team total over, and I'm going to lay the 23.5 points. I think Boise destroys them tonight. Monster win for Boise. I think this is just a name your number type of game for Boise State. And, at home, they've scored 62, 45, and 56 points. What do they score tonight? Probably 50 tonight. How many points does San Diego State score? 20. Okay. It's a 50-30 type of final. I'll lay the big number. I'll lay 23.5 points with Boise State for 1.1 units. Next bet. The Nets against the Bulls. Against the Hornets, rather. The Nets haven't been that bad this year, which is really kind of, it is the Bulls. It is the Bulls. The Nets haven't been that bad. Against the number, they've actually been pretty good. They're laying 2 points at home, Brooklyn against Chicago. No Lonzo Ball for Chicago. He's out with a wrist injury. But Chicago is 3-2 against the number. But the Brooklyn Nets are 4-1 against the number, and they're 2-0 against the number at home. They covered against Denver as 5.5-point dogs. We were on them in that game. And then they won outright against Milwaukee by 13 points. That was a bigger win over Milwaukee than the Celtics had over Milwaukee. They came back against Memphis. They were catching 11.5 points. They won the game outright, 119-106. So while they're 2-3 on the year, at home, they've been pretty good. Again, the Bulls aren't awful on the road for Chicago this year. They were 5-point dogs against Memphis. They won the game outright. They were at Milwaukee. They were catching 9.5. They lost the game by 9, so they covered on the hook there. And on the road against New Orleans, they were laying 5 points. They're catching 5 points, and they lost outright. They're 2-1 ATS on the road. They're 2-1 straight up on the road as well. So this is a team that's not bad, but Lonzo Ball being out, they didn't miss a beat with him. They've covered 2 of their 3 last 4 games, including dogs against Orlando and dogs at Memphis, covering both of them. They didn't win. They won the game outright, won both games outright, but they covered as well as 5 and 5.5 point dogs. This number is 2. I'm going to lay it. You can do money line if you want. I don't hate that at all. But when it gets to be one basket, I'm not really against just taking the 2 points and just saying, okay, I guess we can push on it. But if they're going to win, I don't hate it. And if they lose, I'm not really in love with coming in and laying the number we're going to have to lay from a money line perspective. If you want to go ahead and get this, Brooklyn's at home. It's minus 130, which isn't horrible on the money line. You want to lay that. But let's just lay the 2 points and take it. Minus 2 points here for the Nets at 1.1 units. Chances are if the Nets cover this, they win the game. If not, they lose the game outright. And then the Celtics are up against the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte has given up this year 133 points, 114 points, 125 points, and 105 points so far. They have the second worst defensive rating in the NBA. Only the Raptors have a worse defensive rating. We were on the Celtics team total in their last game. Yes, it needed a storming at the end of the game to get there, and then to get to overtime, and then it flew over the team total. I know Celtics, this number is like, man alive. This is a lot of points in terms of where the Celtics, I mean, really anybody, but points per game, Boston is the number 1 team in the NBA points per game still, even with the kind of slower start, averaging 125.8 points per game. On the road, they are scoring 126 points per game on average. Yes, the game against Indiana needed overtime. That was 135, but in the 4 other games, they scored 119, 124, 122, and 132. Just the same bet. Okay, we're going to bet it until the brakes fall off with this. Celtics team total. Over. Celtics team total. We're going to drop over 123.5 at minus 110. Yes, that's high. Yes, it could be a little bit sweaty. Yes, it could be 125, 126, 127. I don't think they're going to fly over this, but Boston offensively has not been playing well, and Charlotte stinks at defense. This is exactly the type of game that Boston needs to get right after their loss to the Indiana Pacers. We're going to go ahead and take Celtics team total over 123.5. Okay, so for us, 3 bets, 2 sports, 1.1 units down on all of them, 3.3 units in play here on a Friday. Boise State minus 23.5 in college football for 1.1 units. Nets laying 2 at home against the Chicago Bulls for 1.1 units. And the Celtics team total on the road against Charlotte, 1.1 units to go over 123.5. If you want to follow me on Twitter, @SportsTalkMatt, you're going to see a lot of stuff. Instagram as well, same handle. From the Breeders' Cup, from Del Mar. I've never been. I can't wait. I'm getting on a plane here in about 10 hours and heading on over there. I will take the podcast tomorrow night. I don't know. I may tape the podcast from Del Mar tomorrow. I really might do that. The backdrop's so beautiful. I might tape the podcast from Del Mar tomorrow. In fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to tape the podcast from Del Mar tomorrow. So Saturday's podcast will be pretty. The backdrop will be nice. We'll be in San Diego at one of the most gorgeous tracks you'll ever see. My name is Matt Perrault. Follow me across all socials @SportsTalkMatt every morning. It is the Daily Juice Podcast presented by DraftKings.